Every movement an athlete makes passes through a moment where the body has to stabilize before it can produce force. That moment, the isometric phase of muscle contraction, may be one of the most important and yet most overlooked elements of both performance and rehabilitation. My guest today has spent decades studying that exact moment. Brad Thorpe is the founder of ISOFIT, a company focused on developing equipment and education specifically designed to train the isometric phase of movement. With over 30 years in the performance industry and more than 24 patents in training technology, Brad has become one of the leading innovators in isometric strength training. His work has been adopted by elite athletes, strength coaches, and tactical professionals around the world who are looking to improve tendon stiffness, force transfer, and joint stability. But Brad's journey into isometrics didn't start in a lab or a training facility. It actually started with a personal health challenge and a discovery that challenged everything he thought he knew about training. Today, we're going to explore the science of isometric strength, why it may be one of the most underutilized tools in performance and rehab, and how Brad's work is helping reshape how coaches and clinicians think about force production and movement. Brad, welcome to the show.
So after 2 weeks of doing that, my blood pressure was normalized after 14 years. And isometric training, which was historically, once again, contraindicated, don't do this, was 98.3% effective. And it's just like, we're just missing something. And she phones me up a couple hours later and goes, "Hey, Brad, I'm doing moves I've never done before." I'm like, "Well, you're the national champion."
Brad, welcome to the show.
Tom, I truly appreciate it. And thank you very much for that intro. I'm excited to, meet myself, to be honest. That's amazing.
All right. So what originally pulled you into the world of performance and rehab? Let's start.
Yeah, it's going back, obviously, many, many decades now, because I'm just past 52 years of age. So it's been a while. But if I go way back, to when I'm in my teenage years, I got addicted to exercise because I wanted to be better at sport, which was absolutely fabulous. As a kid growing up in Acton, Ontario, so a small town farm village, basically at that point in time, exercise wasn't really a thing that people did. And one of the things that led me to be extremely passionate about exercise, in addition to sort of being involved in sport, was my mom's dad died of a massive heart attack when she was 15 years of age. So I never knew my grandfather. And that heart attack was associated with hypertension. And then, when I was born, and my mom's mom died of a massive heart attack when she was 68 years old. So relatively young, also of a heart attack, and that was also related to hypertension. So I grew up in a household of heart health. So when I was at college, I took a program called Fitness and Lifestyles Management. So in downtown Toronto, and what that was sort of geared towards was like exercise testing and basically how do you train and manage fitness and cardiovascular rehabilitation. And what we found was I had hypertension. So I was 19 years old. My blood pressure was 150 over 100. Wow. And that basically, for a guy who had been exercising really for 5 years consistently, like actual gym-based exercise, and then a history of sport, you wouldn't think that I would be quote unquote unhealthy. Yeah. But here I'm a 19-year-old kid. They wanted to put me on blood pressure medication. And I was dead set against that. Just because I wasn't really a big fan of the idea of having no exit strategy associated with, being on medication. They don't give you one.
And was it purely genetic? Did you have any underlying things?
No, there was nothing, underlying. So you would like to say it's kind of genetic. However, if I sort of speed the whole story up, so that was in about 19. So I was 19 years old. So that would have been basically in 1992, 1993 is when I would have been diagnosed. So if I jump forward 14 years after studying studying under some of the world's foremost experts on exercise mechanics, and just general gym principles and stuff like that. So 14 years later, I'd still not been able to sort of resolve my own blood pressure issues, right? So that would sort of lead you to believe it was something genetic based. However, I heard about a study from McMaster University that said that isometrics was the equivalent of a single pharmaceutical agent for lowering blood pressure. And I thought, I went to school basically for cardiovascular rehabilitation. I'd studied under some of the world's foremost experts in subject area, and I was unable to resolve my hypertension because most of these organizations said that it was contraindicated to
Yeah.
do isometrics. So I was dumbfounded, for lack of a better word, when I heard this study or heard about this study. And I'm like, hold on. Everything I've ever heard said if you have high blood pressure, don't do isometrics because it would increase your likelihood of a stroke or heart attack
Yeah.
or any of those spear mongering things. So what they recommended was basically 4 repetitions
Yeah.
of squeezing a tennis ball or a dynamometer, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
at about 30% of your MVC, so maximum voluntary isometric contraction. And I thought, oh, that's super easy. Well, if you're recommending 8 minutes a day, 3 times a week, so 24 minutes on the week, what would happen if I try 20 minutes a day? So after sort of implementing a 20-minute per day isometric protocol, which was just various exercises performed pushing up like literally a wall,
Yeah.
so nothing overly complex by any means. So after 2 weeks of doing that, my blood pressure was normalized after 14 years.
What do you think is what's happening there mechanically, physiologically, neurologically? What do we think is happening there in that context with regards to doing that hard isometric? And are you holding your breath when you are doing these protocols to increase
Um,
that intra-abdominal pressure? Or are you just
so yeah, so no breath holding at all, and highly avoid breath holding while doing isometrics. That will cut off blood supply to your brain and
right?
increase like pressure and stuff like that. So, upon further like exploration into the studies, a lot of their isometric protocols actually were breath held.
Mm.
Way back in the 70s and stuff like that.
So is that
However,
where the
from
confusion went of doing isometrics is dangerous because of the breath holding?
yeah, it's more about the breath holding. As with doing anything breath holding, it
Sure.
becomes, So one of the things, as long as you're breathing,
Yep.
shockingly, it becomes not really risky at all. But what basically the force output, I basically put in a certain amount of effort. I would have said about 70% because that's what they would have said
Yep.
in the study. But yeah, after 2 weeks, blood pressure was normalized. But one of the things, like upon further exploration, and this is going back to 2007, is basically when the study came out when I sort of created the blood pressure change myself. Upon further reflection over the last sort of call it 18 years, some of the stuff that you can sort of see in the literature now, basically when you increase muscle tone, it will, and isometrics are great for increasing muscle tone and neural activation to muscle structure. So one of the things when you're looking at the atrial system as well as the venous system within your body, if I create better levels of tone, what they see is a near instantaneous increase in the wall thickness of the artery and vein, also an increase in the diameter, right? So if you put an elastic tube or like a tube
Yep.
on stretch,
Yep.
it's 100% predictable that diameter is going to narrow,
Yep.
right? We see that in physics. I mean, so if I take it off stretch, well, all of a sudden, what will end up happening is, well, you reduce peripheral resistance.
Right.
Now, one of the interesting things that is never really discussed when discussing blood pressure and the circulatory system is really the venous system, right? So the venous side, so how the blood actually gets back to the heart.
Hmm.
One of the things that's always stood out to me is like the atrial side, so how the blood leaves the heart through the heart and the arteries and capillaries. That's 35% of the blood volume equation. Right.
Mm.
So if I'm looking at the venous side, 65% of your blood volume is actually housed within your venous system at any given one time. And
Yeah.
if I'm able to increase the activation of those muscles to circulate the blood back to the heart, well, that's going to have basically a significant impact on that pressure generated from my heart because I don't have to work as hard. And one of the things that we can also look at is most people will sort of, acknowledge that the venous system is virtually controlled by a muscle pump, right? So it's all muscle action that gets the blood circulated back. Now, muscles attached to tendons. And this is one thing that is never discussed, and there's literally no literature on this next statement. Well, muscles are attached to bone via tendon. There's over 4,000 tendons in the human body. And if I'm doing a long hold, high effort isometric, it is going to increase the stiffness characteristics of that tendon better than virtually all other modes of exercise.
Yeah.
So if I can increase basically the stiffness of that tendon, the muscles basically be more efficient.
Yeah.
So therefore, like that's going to have a direct and almost near immediate impact on blood pressure.
Yeah.
Right. And we can see that. And there's literally no research on that. So, I'm okay to be proven wrong. However, I do wish for somebody to look at it and more so prove me right.
Where a lot of the focus, it seems like these days, is more on the fascia, right? The fascial system is, it's several layers deep. It runs in the muscle. It creates those compartments in the muscle, but the fascia then blends with the tendons. And when we create that isometric tension in the tendon, the fascia also gets that contraction, creates stiffness in and around the muscle.
Yep.
So it creates this squeezing, this hard compartment, and then when you release the tension, it becomes, the harder you hit fascia, the harder you stretch it, the more solid it becomes.
Yep.
But then the softer or the slower you move into it, the squishier it becomes. It's like water, right? Because the majority of it's water.
It's
So
an incredible tissue that obviously we're at the forefront of something I think extraordinarily special.
yeah,
You know.
it's when I got out of the hospital, a couple of years ago, I lost 50 pounds of muscle. And what I knew about physiology and everything, I was like, I need to develop the structure. Like I didn't just lose muscle tissue, I lost connective tissue. Like everything became thin and
All of
brittle.
it. All of it.
And I had a really hard time with deceleration. I mean, that's probably as we get older, it's that ability to decelerate our bodies against gravity if we stumble or if we catch ourselves, to hit the brakes and hit that eccentric and then an isometric phase so that we can stop ourselves in our tracks so we don't fall, break our hip, break our nose, whatever. Once I started doing isometrics, and that's really where I took it more seriously, jumping around, doing the power stuff. I was guilty. I was guilty as a rehab and sports expert. I didn't do as much isometrics as I should have. But then getting out of the hospital, I couldn't build my strength back up because working muscles, it wasn't working because my structure. As soon as I started doing isometrics every day and hopping, all of a sudden everything felt like less effort. Like everything felt easier simply because I was creating that tension in my body and the stiffness again in the tissues. And then the neuromuscular system started to switch back on. So I have a personal story, but now it was from that moment I realized, ooh, I should have been looking at isometric strength a lot longer ago and taking it more seriously.
Well, exactly. And one of the things, I mean, let's just go back to basic root level physiology.
Yeah.
You cannot have a dynamic muscle contraction without first having an upregulation of isometric tension.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it governs dynamic movement. And, it was one of those things like that aha moment. It's like, oh, yeah, cool, let's add it. It's not going to replace movement. And, I get pigeonholed a lot. People will say, hey, you're anti-dynamic movement. It's like, I work with the best athletes in the world. Yeah, they all move.
Who says that?
Oh man, dude, it's unbelievable. Like most people don't realize I own an 11,000 square foot training center in Toronto. I don't often talk about it because it's like, I want to position myself in the world of isometrics.
Yeah.
But with those sort of certifications that I took under the foremost experts and all that, I was the 21st person in the world with my dual designations, and I would be sitting across from like the who's who in sports performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, cool. However, here's my niche, and I stick to my lane, and subsequently, like how many people specialize in dynamic exercise? I know probably 10, 15, 20, 30,000, if not a million.
Yeah.
How many people are specializing in isometrics? Well, I was, to be honest, for the longest time, one of one.
Yeah.
So it's better to be one of one, I think, and then instead of one of 500,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's once you sort of realize the subtle differences in how structure actually moves, right? Like the majority of motor programming, like 80% of the whole movement outcome occurs isometrically. It's, the neural side is like before it even goes to the muscle. And it's like all in the central nervous system. It's like, okay, cool. That's subconscious neural behavior we can influence. So we're very, very fortunate in that sense. And then subsequently, all change of direction, you have to zero out velocity.
Right.
And if you don't zero out velocity, you bleed through
Yeah.
in the original direction. And that might be the difference between an ACL rupture, an
Mhm.
Achilles rupture, some sort of like shoulder-ish injury. Let's say you're going to rip your long head bicep tendon,
Yeah.
or baseball season's now started. So if you're looking at ulnar collateral ligament stuff,
Yeah.
if you can't transition that from one direction to the other, damage happens.
Yeah.
And you mentioned aging. Well, we get shorter as a species after the age of 28 years old.
Mm.
Just based off giving up disc height. Then when we get into our 40s, there's a substance within your neck structure, and I know you know this, your nucleus pulposus basically it reabsorbs into the body.
Yep.
So you're literally giving up height.
Yeah.
So, and those length tension relationships, they don't change in the sense that the muscles are still attached to where the muscles have always been attached. They're now just closer together.
Yeah.
So that means that you have to be tighter with aging,
Yeah.
and not tension is like bad, tension isn't good. Like, and we gravitate to the word tight as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Versus no. We need to be tight. We need to be stiff. And that stiffness creates the ability to have mobility.
Yeah.
And force propulsion and force tolerance and force transfer, and then ultimately force expression comes back to, how stiff are you? And we just have such a hatred for that word, though.
Yeah. Well, because people synonymously associate stiffness, tightness with pain. They're like, oh, this feels so tight. I'm like, it's not tight, it's toned. And if it's toned, the muscle just might be compensating, trying to stabilize something or trying to protect something. So yeah, you feel tension in the tissues, but you don't know why it's there. But it's doing something, and it's doing something for a reason. But now we got to find out why is it there, and then how can we retrain around that so that it doesn't cause pain or discomfort or movement problems. With your training, so you mentioned before you have a couple you were early on, like muscle activation techniques, resistance training. You were one of a few group of individuals who did some specific certifications and training. And at
Correct.
one point, you were a very small group in the world. What did you take from your early training for your understanding of physiology and then moving into your realm that you are now today?
A lot of it was basically just the mechanics or the physics of exercise, really. So looking at moment arms. So the resistance training specialist program was brilliant in the sense that it taught us how to actually look and analyze exercise
Yep.
through a sort of a lens that was different than everyone else.
Mm.
Like I would look at exercise as basically my definition of exercise was force applied to a motor pattern plus the conditions under which it was applied,
Mm.
which is different than go do it, or let's just do a bench press type thing.
Right.
And then the benefit of the muscle activation techniques, well, we looked at the body structure, and we broke down the neuromuscular system almost division by division. So we looked at almost just shy of 400 different muscle tests, right? And just basically breaking the different divisions of muscle into components, right? Like your vastus lateralis would have had 4 distinct sort of components to that vastus lateralis. So it's not just one muscle, it's the components of said muscle, and how are they going to interact with, something maybe in your neck and something like that. So just those relationships when you span muscles, so just having that insight and that knowledge where it's like, oh, we just look at muscles differently. So I took that, and then like we touched upon isometrics. We didn't really do much for isometrics. And then it wasn't until I heard about that study from McMaster University that, I went whole heart into it, dedicated to it, because here, obviously both my mom's parents lost their lives due to hypertension. And then I had hypertension. So it was a very, very personal experience.
Yeah.
And then from a business perspective, I mean, half the United States of America has hypertension.
Yeah.
I think personally it can be resolved probably in 6 weeks. If we had a nationally mandated, discussion at least, or a training protocol implemented, nationwide. And the sad part about that, the last time I checked, when it was like, and this is the Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation, or the Heart and Stroke Foundation,
Yeah.
when you basically do a search on their website for isometrics, they had nothing.
No. Yeah.
And here's, not to knock them or throw them under the bus, but I mean, it is your mandate to help resolve, things to do with the cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
And, there was a peer-reviewed study that came out in 2023 that there was a comparative analysis between basically isometrics, high intensity interval training, aerobic training, resistance training, then the combined effect of aerobic training and resistance training. And if you looked at the effectiveness rating of the specific modes of exercise or high intensity interval training, which of course you think, well, that's all that go, go, go cardio type stuff. Well, that
Right.
was actually the most inefficient way of actually improving cardio, like
Yeah.
reducing blood pressure. Like it was 38% effective. And then the aerobics, which you naturally believe is the most effective because that's the gold standard,
Right.
was 40.5.
Mm.
Resistance training was 47 point something.
Right.
The combined effect of aerobic training and resistance training was 75% effective. And isometric training, which was historically, once again, contraindicated, don't do this, was 98.3% effective.
Wow.
And it's just like, we're just missing something. Or let's rephrase that. No, we know what it is. We're not talking about it. We're no longer missing it. We're just omitting it.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think, especially because we're both from Canada, for a socialized healthcare system who benefits from keeping people out of the medical system and not put a strain on it, you'd think that something simple and very low cost would be implemented to offset some of the long-term chronic issues that our population is getting into and that costs the healthcare system a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I reach out to some of the scientists that like one of the cool things lately is like grip strength and related to longevity and obviously blood pressure and stuff like that. One thing that they often do is they omit the word isometric in their research reports.
Mm,
It's and I reach out to a couple of the researchers, and their comments were basically, "Oh, well, the research community knows grip strength is isometric,
right.
and it's used as a proxy for total body strength."
Yes.
And it's like, well, dynamic strength and isometric strength are totally different. So they're not the same. So to use isometrics as a proxy for dynamic strength is just wrong.
Yeah.
However, the benefit is going, oh, well, if I squeeze something with my non-dominant hand or my dominant hand, whichever, and I'm able to lower blood pressure, but that is also synonymous with longevity.
Hmm.
Well, why don't we look at the mode of the contraction? Because in the study, they also looked at like a wall sit as
Yeah.
well as a seated isometric leg extension. So it's like they're seeing that isometrics, not just squeeze something with your hand,
Yeah.
is beneficial for lowering blood pressure. Why don't we just blow that up? But the reason I'm going to believe is because you have a lot of people vested in a specific mode of exercise, be it dynamic exercise,
Mhm.
that their gyms are already set up that way, the hospital system is already set up that way. And to be honest, if you're able to sort of reduce blood pressure on a national scale, how many jobs are lost?
Mm.
How long are going to people live? And I mean, this gets into a sort of a different sort of stream of thought.
Yeah.
But if I'm able to live beyond, call it 65 or 70,
Yeah.
I'm going to be more potentially of a burden
Yeah.
to, the national sort of economy. So, the guys, well, I think Justin Trudeau is looking to sort of increase basically our work life to 74 years of age. Right. And it's like, okay, the average person dies, I think it's 6 months after retirement.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if we push that out to 74, can we actually get death post retirement to, call it 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
have to pay anybody out. That's obviously a different way to approach this.
For
But
sure.
when you look at it logically,
Yeah.
well, it's more effective than dynamic exercise
Yeah.
to lower blood pressure. If I lower blood pressure, I can increase quality of life. But now nobody is part of the medical system. Nobody's part of the pharmaceutical system.
Right.
So it makes you just a little bit jaded sometimes. But we're making the change, and people are starting to pay attention. And
Yeah.
you know,
I think a lot of people are looking for the alternatives for their health. I know lots of people who leave the country to go get medical procedures that are not approved here, but are very highly effective. and they are seeing the benefits from it. The sad thing is it's not available for everybody because not everybody can do that. But this is just it's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You all you need is a wall.
Yeah.
Just squat up against the wall, push a wall
Literally.
for 30 seconds, and watch people get healthy. I mean, how hard is that to do? Put it up onto the website and just blast it out to people.
Well,
Oh, you
it's
want to lower your blood pressure? Do a wall squat for 30 seconds with four reps and see what happens.
Yeah, and just do that 6 days a week. Like it does, it's literally 2 minutes a time, and
Yeah.
it doesn't take much effort. And you, to be honest, you don't even have to try that hard.
Mhm.
So it's like just getting that muscle able to contract properly, and obviously that's going to have many different sort of benefits. And that's just the circulatory system. You can strategically grow bone with isometrics.
Yep.
You can obviously increase that tendon stiffness, so that's tendonitis, tendinopathies, and like ligament or potential ligament issues because you're able to sort of transfer force better.
Yep.
But you're thinking about cognitive impairment and like things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's with aging. So
Mhm.
one of the benefits of isometrics also is it helps with intra-brain communication. So how your brain regions talk to other regions. So they're starting to see that now. And like one of the things that, once again, we've just not looked here. Well, the other end of the muscle is the brain. So the more we can use muscle structure, the more we can contract. So there's a thing I toy with in the sense that, most people will sit here and tell you that movement is essential.
Yeah.
Most people are injured moving. So
Right.
we need to make a change to that comment. Muscle contraction is vital.
Mhm.
Movement is optional, right? Because you can contract isometrically when you're talking about muscle contractions. When you're talking about movement, you don't talk about isometrics. It
No.
gets omitted because it's not part of the vernacular. Like, oh, you're just going to stay still. No, no, no. Movement is important. No, contraction's important. Now you can talk about eccentric, concentric, and isometric. So it brings up part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And that's part of it because you've gone to school and you've been through countless sort of educational programs. The majority of people never talk about isometrics,
So,
right? And like I was talking to a guy with his PhD the other day in exercise phys, and he's like, "Yeah, I spent about 15 minutes 6 years ago talking about isometrics in my undergrad, and that was the component. It's like, yeah, we have isometrics." And no, let's focus on jumping and running and measuring all this dynamic stuff. And it's like, but yet so many people are injured from it,
mm,
and then they stop exercising, they stop moving because they're injured, and they got that kinesiophobia. They're fearful of re-injuring themselves, and it's like, well, let's just add the isometric component.
yeah.
Because if you look at the architecture of an injury,
Yeah.
it usually is caused by tissue displacement because you couldn't upregulate tension high enough to deal with the external load.
Yeah.
So stuff moved.
Yeah.
And if I look at it that way, well, if the goal was not to move, well, then we're no longer talking about dynamic movement. We're talking about the ability to control it isometrically, to
Yeah.
keep it in the same position. So you avoided the ACL injury, you avoided the Achilles, you avoided the shoulder, your back injuries.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time. And then, like, one thing in therapy, so let's say you unfortunately injure yourself.
Yeah.
They always start with isometrics.
We do. We totally do.
It's the thing that got you back. It gets you back to the movement.
Yeah.
So why don't we just assume everyone's injured
Yep.
and start there every workout? Add isometrics, do your dynamic stuff,
Yep.
finish it off with some more isometrics
Yep.
to basically wrap up the package so you can go home and sleep better.
Yep.
So
That's exactly how when I got out of the hospital, isometric work, move, finish with isometrics in long
yeah,
range, just to kind of create that extra stretch, reset the collagen, all the stuff. But you always feel better after doing it. You feel more stable. You feel in more control when you hold angles. And even with rehabilitation, we always, like you said, we start with isometrics, and we don't have them move into pain. We have them stop shy of pain, but we know, and correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe my information is dated. There's an overflow effect, correct? Like of about 15 degrees plus minus of
um,
strength development in. So if I strengthen at 45, I might be strengthening at 60 as well as down to 30.
some literature will say it's up to 70%.
Up to 70%. Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, one of the things you have to sort of be okay with looking at each angle is going to be unique to itself.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
but there's going to be other muscles that start to participate the further you get away from stuff,
Right.
right? So a lot of this research will look at like one tissue,
Right.
you
Okay.
know, and it's kind of like if you move 15 degrees, well, you no longer actually, the sequencing of structure isn't even comparable.
Hmm.
So just be okay with that. But yeah, there is a carryover effect, but it's between realistically both ends of the muscle, right? Which is
Yep.
not kind of makes some sense there. But you look at it and go, okay, so historically they will say plus or minus 15 degrees
Yep.
per sort of angle,
Yep.
you know, they never look at other joints either, usually in those studies, right? Like what was the influence on the spinal structures or the shoulder structure,
Right.
you know, so it's because each joint has a moment arm to that line of force that has to be considered.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you have to co-contract everything in the
you,
body, not just that bicep that you're doing isometrically. I have to
correct.
stabilize the scap. I have to stabilize my rib, my core. Like as I hold my arm here, the longer I hold it, the more tension I can feel start to build across my body.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
neurologically, it's getting connected. What do you think? Do we know why isometrics have that cognitive benefit going on there? Is that just better mind body connection because you're holding it, you're creating that feeling, the brain's finding the muscle? What do we
Yeah.
think is going on there?
The answer is yes to all of that.
Okay.
You know, when you're looking at how a muscle contracts, it's obviously going to be supraspinal, so in the brain. That's where, when you're looking at motor control, 80% of that strategy occurs before you even think about moving,
Right.
right? So there's going to be that. There's a thing called anticipatory postural adjustment, so APA. And what that is, so if I'm going to be reaching with my left arm forward,
Yep.
my right side lumbar spine will actually tighten up first,
Right.
right? So you're going to have this sort of pre-tension occur elsewhere
Yep.
so you can actually be stable in order to move. And that occurs in every muscle in every different direction. So, I mean, it's subconscious, they like to say, and those activities are subconscious. But if I increase the isometric component in training, well, all of a sudden what we can see is those improvements actually get better. You
Mm.
know, and once again, this needs to be studied and need to be shown scientifically to make all the sort of the scientists happy.
Yep.
Um, you know, but in practicality, we see it all the time with our athletes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's like, oh wow, you've done isometrics once and you're now doing moves you've never done before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, so that's the level of efficiency that we see. And it was so specific. I was working with one of these ladies, so in breakdancing, and I have to preface, not the Australian version of breakdancing, you know, the Canadian version of breakdancing
Oh,
where we
good.
actually have great breakdancers. So I was working with this young lady by the name of Tiffany, and she was at the point the reigning sort of national champion.
Mm.
And so she came in, she did 30 minutes of isometrics with us, like under a specific protocol called 30 and 30. And what that is, it's 30 minutes of isometrics. So you do 10 exercises for your upper body, 10 for your core, 10 for your lower body.
Mm.
Each contraction length is 45 seconds.
Okay.
And there's a 15-second transition in between each exercise,
Mm.
right? And it's a structured program. And so we walked Tiffany through this. And she phones me up a couple hours later and goes, "Hey, Brad, I'm doing moves I've never done before." I'm like, well, you're the national champion. So it's not like we're taking somebody who is, you know, new to exercise and saying, oh my God, look, you went from, you know, 10 pounds to 15 pounds. That's amazing. No, we took somebody who's at the top of their game and made them better in half an hour.
Mm.
Right. And people are
Well,
like, well, that's not possible. It's like, ask her. It
right.
was. She called me.
Yep.
But then they'll sort of try to say, well, it's neuromuscular, like it's neurological.
Right.
And so what?
Right. Yeah, you're right. It is everything. Yeah, like
Yeah, everything's neurological.
everything's neurological.
Your hypertrophy is actually neurological, you know. But so we saw that, and then one of our other really big success stories in the last year was a lady by the name of Kelly Rudney.
Mm.
And Kelly, I started working with her when she was 48 years old. So professional long drive competitor, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
48 years old, history of back pain. She's in Kitchener Waterloo, so not, you know, call it triangular to us.
Yes.
Um, you know, so basically started working with Kelly, and her maximum drive was 356 or 358 yards, like that level.
Yeah.
This past year, so now 50 years old, we've been working together for a little bit over the year and a half. So she, at the World Championships, she became the first woman over the age of 50 to have multiple drives over 400 yards. So
Wow.
she drove 409, 413, and then 406 to win the world title at 50 years old.
And not just in her age category
Oh
across.
no, this is a global title. This
Good,
is
good. Yeah, I was gonna
amongst,
say,
yeah, the lady that she was
wow.
competing against was, I think, 25 years younger or 20
Holy
years
smoke.
younger anyways. Right? So you look at that and you go, okay, so we're taking, and if she listens to this, she'll kill me for saying this. We took senior aged
Sure.
tissue
Right.
and made it outperform young tissue.
Yeah.
And not by a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Smash.
yeah, it was incredible, and to sort of watch that happen. So that's some of the stuff, and I think that's the most amazing story because part of it because of her age,
Yeah.
right? And a golf swing is probably maybe a baseball swing is kind of somewhat comparable from a level of difficulty, the rate of force you have to develop in a small window of time,
Yeah.
and the level of power. I mean, it's insane of what you have to coordinate in, call it, I don't know, less than half a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty remarkable, right? When you're
But
looking at force transference, it's kind of like, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Um, so we had that. And then this year at the World sort of Indoor Track and Field Championships, in the 60 meters men's race, we came second and third, people that use customers. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Remember, I do support dynamic movement.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we
You
all
know,
do.
Yes, exactly. You have to.
You have to.
So it's like those little things where it's just like you look at it and just go, okay, we got the world champion golfer or long drive champion. We
Yeah.
actually, our customers won the WNBA. We picked up the LA Dodgers after they won the World Series,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's like we just all around this world class level of sport performance.
Mhm.
We just need to sort of get it diluted down to the general masses,
Yeah.
where it's like that's where you have the biggest and the most impactful impact, if you can
Yeah.
say impactful impact. Um, because then you get better athletes later
Yeah.
because they're not injured to the same level as they would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
People don't realize isometric work, when you hold it there, it's self-organizing, right? Like you hold a lunge and you're like, well, this is even with body weight. You're like, oh, this is easy at first. And all of a sudden, after 30 seconds, you start to feel things burn. You're like, okay, I can manage this. And then all of a sudden, you start to feel parts that are burning a little bit more than others. And then you start to feel muscles and tissues that you don't normally feel. Like to me, it's part of that mind body connection. And it's a really great way for the nervous system to start self organizing and exposing some of those
yep.
weak links that we might have been hiding, from our dynamic movements. Like we'll always take the path of least resistance. Our nervous system will always look for the strong side and avoid the weak because it's from a survival perspective and a physics perspective.
Yeah.
Those are just laws that we just abide by. But when we do an isometric and we hold it in a specific range, you can really start to expose what areas are fatiguing out quick, which ones are failing, and which ones you need what things you need to focus on. And once you focus on those weak links, like everything just starts to dial in so much better. I want to take a quick break from today's episode to share something I believe every rehab and performance professional should know about. For years, I saw too many clients go through the same cycle: short-term fixes, temporary relief, and then the same issues coming back again. That's why I built the Advanced Movement Therapist certification. It's not just another course, it's a system that helps you identify the real cause of a client's pain, give them results that actually last, and stand out in a crowded industry. You'll get practical tools and strategies that you can take straight into your sessions so you can help people get better faster. If you're ready to become the go-to clinician in your community, head to amtcertified.ca to learn more. That's amtcertified.ca. Your clients will thank you.
Yep. And one of the things they're seeing in the research is as you're holding said position, right, arbitrary position,
Yeah.
there's going to be a grouping of tissues that are responsible for that tissue. or that position. It's not just the one you think you're working,
Yeah, no.
right? It's like, let's say you're doing a split lunge and you're holding it, 60 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like, well, are we talking about your hip? Are we talking about your ankle? Are we talking about your
Yeah.
knee? Are we talking about your spinal position? Are we talking about your shoulder? Which one? Oh, they're all working,
All of them.
and if you change 1 degree, they're all now working differently,
Yeah.
right? 60 and 61 is not the same. And we have to be okay with it similar, but yet the strategy is uniquely different and unto itself. And the beautiful thing about the brain and being human, you can actually organize all of that. And once you learn how to synchronize it, through isometrics, then you just add it to your dynamic stuff. And what you'll see is like, oh, I'm moving better. I
Yeah.
can transfer force better because when I change direction, I have to zero out velocity.
Yeah.
So that 0 point is not zero tension.
No.
It's just zero velocity. Like you take a guy, let's say he's a 225-pound running back, and like I'm running towards you and I want to deke around you, but I only got like 2 meters,
Yeah.
right? So in 6 feet, I'm going to basically take 220 pounds running at 20 miles an hour, stop, turn, and cut.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Without blowing apart my ACL.
Yeah.
So that means everything above my knee had to zero out.
Yes.
We historically look at the knee. We look at the foot. It's like, well, the foot's fixed on the ground because it's not sliding,
Yeah.
right? Because obviously you got cleats and whatever. So your foot is planted. Your body mass is moving above the fixed entity. So I hope to God you have good isometric control above your waist if you're looking at reducing hamstring injuries and or ACL ruptures.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's your body mass moving over a fixed limb.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more complex than that. We try to make it more complex, but
Well, we can charge more money if it sounds more complex, right?
yeah, there you go,
I
right?
can
It's
sound
like,
super smart with all my degrees.
yeah, I want to sound super, not dumb. I want to sound super common,
Yeah.
so I can actually explain it to people.
Yeah.
And it's, because obviously we can make this sound really, really smart, and nobody listens to it, and they go, "Oh, wow, that was at a level I just wasn't beneficial for me."
Yep. And out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the beautiful thing is I do talk to a lot of people in this space every day, which is wonderful. So I get to, sound smarter a lot of times. And it's like, even then, it's like, okay, let's just bring it back down to like
Simple.
common language, because otherwise, we omit so many people and they're not gonna get the benefit and or the value of it.
No.
So,
No. Exactly. Who have been your biggest influences from like mentors, thinkers through this journey?
oh man, uh, Google Scholar. Let's go with that first foremost. So daily,
ChatGPT.
like daily I go online and it's like, okay, let's see what new research is out on isometrics. I literally check daily, which is amazing. So the majority of the stuff that I've obviously come to, concluded and stuff has always been the guys in their master's thesis or putting out their master's PhD theses and stuff like that. So for them, thank you. But the biggest influences, like, Tom Purvis, the head of the guy who created the resistance training specialist program, probably one of the biggest influences of my life. So his certification was something I felt I earned. It wasn't like one of these weekend things where you had to give it. Like, I valued that certification more than anything I've ever achieved in life. I like to put it bluntly. It was an 8-hour oral exam in front of the world's leading expert in the subject area. Yeah, and it was like, oh, that was good. I actually know this material. I can competently talk about it. I can get up in front of people and present on it. And so he would probably be the most influential people in this space for that reason. And then one of my investors, during my sort of patenting phase of ISOFIT, I was financially broke. My daughter was in the hospital, born 3 months early. My wife just lost her business. My patent bill came in at 35 or $32,000 more than it was supposed to. I had zero money, and I posted to Facebook and sort of said, I'm filing my patent. I'm basically, sorry to swear on your podcast, but I was sort of fucked.
Yeah.
And I posted to Facebook, and within 15 minutes, I got a message saying, "Hey, Brad, everything will be okay. I got a check for $100,000. I'll drop it off on Monday."
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this was a person I hadn't talked to in 3 years.
Holy cow.
right? So this is the power of helping people. This is the power of being in this exercise science space where, they were in a different position than I was,
Yeah.
and I was able to help them, and they had an opportunity to be able to help me. And it was funny because after, I met them on the Monday, and so they were walking away, and they like literally handed me the check for $100,000. They're walking away, and they go, "Oh, what do I get for this?" And I was like, "Hey, how's 10%?" And she's like, "Yes, perfect," and continued walking. We signed we signed our documentation. I think it would have been 3 years later, right? And 4 years later, actually.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that level of, I'm not going to say blind trust because we knew who each other was, but it was like, yeah, I know you're on the right path. I know you'll never give up. I know you're helping people, and this is a mission I want to be a part of.
Mm.
And subsequently, like that was 2009 when my daughter was born,
Wow.
right? And so that was 17 years ago. And we've continually grown ISOFIT. We just broke 50 countries we've sort of shipped product to. We have over 1,100 of the coolest organizations we deal with, and that's also includes individual people. But it's like, I've had the U.S. Army call me, unsolicited. The U.S. Air Force purchased product the other day from our website. I'm like, and it just baffles my mind because, arguably, well, not arguably, I'm selling not moving to the world.
Yeah, you are.
And we're movement obsessed, and we're very blessed and fortunate to be able to help people, and it's across all aspects of life. Like the youngest kid I know that's using ISOFIT, 7 years old. The oldest is 94. So it's a wide spectrum, and I've helped people who have died and been like in comas,
Yeah.
and they've picked up ISOFIT and it's helped restore their life.
Yeah.
So we've been at that stage of, call it near death experience, well, death, and then coming back out of.
Yeah.
There's one gentleman, his name's Keith, like he had died. Woke up, he had an LVAD, so a left ventricular assist device. So
Mm.
he does not have a functioning heart.
Wow.
So we helped him go from basically just out of coma to basically qualifying for a heart transplant.
Wow.
So all of those stages. And when we started with our isometric protocols, we were doing 1 minute a day. And that was his exercise, 15
Wow.
seconds, 4 different exercises. Right. And people are like, what's that going to do? It's going to get us to 2 minutes.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, you got to do 10 minutes a day. It's like he couldn't do 10 minutes a day.
No.
And if you tell somebody that, they're not going to do it.
No, because the entry is too great.
Yeah. So it's so the influential people, they're my customers, like
Mm.
just seeing their stories. Like we have people making over $1 million a year now, just ISOFIT sales. And that's not sales of product, it's sale of services. And so that transform their life and their business and their community. So there's all these extensions of, how awesome is this?
Yeah.
And, very fortunate. And as we sort of discussed prior to jumping on the actual sort of podcast, like I had two universities reach out to me, a professional sport team, and the U.S. Army I was talking to yesterday and today.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And then, I also had some people reach out to me from France as well as the UAE. Like that's all within 24 hours.
Yeah. And it's you have this ISOFIT strength trainer, right? The strength kit, and then you have straps. Can you talk a
Correct.
little bit about those three products?
So the strength trainer is the original ISOFIT. So it's basically a 7 foot long bed. It functionally is a wall in the middle of a room. So
Nice.
the backside or the vertical component looks identical to a protractor, right?
Okay.
So you can measure joint angles to
Hmm.
your heart's content.
Yep.
So it adjusts every 10 degrees from zero all the way over to zero on the other side in 10-degree increments. There's two levels of adjustment, so an inner arc and an outer arc, and they're sort of separated by about 6 inches.
Yep.
So you can virtually restrain all human joint motion on sort of that platform. So it's a 7 foot long bed, as I said, and it's elevated off the ground about 12 inches. So it's great for seniors, rehabilitation protocols on the frontal plane, or like where the platform is. There's all these insertion points where you can actually add other accessories. So you can restrain, like if you think about hip, ab, and adduction.
Yep.
So you can do all of those different movement patterns. The ISOFIT Strength Kit is a scaled down version. It's lays on the floor. It's basically takes up, it's 30 inches across by 32, so call it less than 9 square feet. It would be like, let's call it, that would be the Ferrari. The strength trainer would be like a Bentley.
Yeah.
Both great for whatever they are, but if you want more speed, compactness, the strength trainer is great. It's great for team training. So when you get like 10 of them, so now you can actually equip your program to actually be successful. The strength trainer, I would say that's far more luxurious. So that's where you're looking at like high-end small group training or physiotherapy, like those environments, or at home fitness if luxury is a thing for you.
Yeah.
And then the strength straps, we were dealing with a lot of the NBA guys and the NBA teams. A lot of them have the strength kit, so the smaller the units, but the guys are like 7 feet tall, and the bar height has a maximum height of 31 inches. They're like, we want to do stuff above it. It's like, okay, well, we'll just create some straps that anchor to it.
Yeah.
So now you can do isometrics above the height of the bar. And, the beautiful thing about the straps, they're very, very cost effective. They're like $129 US, right? And it gives you 10-foot long straps per package. So a lot of our NCAA teams that we deal with, they have like a series of straps that they take on the road with them, and they'll have like the strength kits that they outfit their training studios with or their training rooms with. And so that allows them to do isometrics on the road. It's also, not cost prohibitive. And so that's those things. And then, one of the things that, we have coming forth, and we're about a month away from our launch of our prototype for this, is what's called the ISOFIT Tower. So it's basically a 7-foot high training and testing rig. So you can do all your isometric testing on it. The floor of it actually is a scale. So you can get into all the isometric measuring, and it's analog. Or more like, it's archaic. It's not like it's not like these $10,000 force plates where it gives you the nuance. It gives you the number. It gives you you can have a timing system, so you can look at it from a training perspective as well. But that's our sort of foray into sort of saying, hey, let's just give people what they want, because we've had people ask us, for years, oh, we want some data associated with this. So it's like, cool, let's just put a scale in the bottom of this thing. So that way, in the event that it is important to you, you can have it. And, from a price point perspective, like if I were to look at Hawken Dynamics, and I think they're a wonderful brand and a wonderful company, but their force plates, I believe, are $5,000 to $6,000. Valued, and they do great stuff. So no knock at that. Where our entire sort of ISOFIT tower, hopefully it'll be about $3,500.
Okay.
Right. So you get the testing and the training side, and you get really at the end of the day, and they do jump stuff, and we won't do that. Right. So it's just literally that force number. But you look at something like that, and it's like, oh, cool. So I can tell you that you're squatting with 150 pounds.
Yep.
Isometrically.
Right.
There's certain value to that, which that satisfies that for the audience. And they go, oh my God, I can get sort of 3 different levels of ISOFIT or 4 different levels of ISOFIT for various reasons and benefits. And, so we're very, very fortunate. We got great manufacturing, and, so we're able to sort of bring that price point down, which is nice. So,
well, having those types of scales, at least, if last week we did 150, well, this week let's try for 152 or 155, right? Like it just allows you to kind of scale up, because sometimes people come in and they're pushing and they think they're putting the same force, but they're not, right? Maybe because of fatigue, because of whatever reasons, but having that objective number in front of them just tells them that, you need to push a little harder today. We know you can push harder, so let's do that.
Well, exactly. And, for our teams and whatever, it's like, okay, you can use the strength kits. Like, so the smaller units, they're obviously slightly, lesser price point, where it's like you outfit your room with 10 of those. And it's like, okay, well, from a testing perspective now, it's like, okay, let's call it Monday, we do testing. Yeah. And then, the rest of the week, we actually train the thing we want tested.
Yeah.
And one of the things that a lot of the organizations do is they test it, but they don't train it. So it's kind of like, well, why the hell are you testing it?
Why are you testing it? Yeah.
You see the value in the testing, but they haven't really pulled it through into their programming yet.
Yeah.
And it's gotten a lot better. And, obviously our customers are our customers and they do it. But, you talk to some of these teams out there and it's like, "Well, why aren't you doing any of this stuff?" It's like, oh, I know you're testing. I see you actually have like the testing stuff right there.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been that sort of adoption as of yet. And a lot of it comes from they don't actually have ISOFITs.
Mm.
So it's really hard to sort of promote isometrics when it's not convenient.
Yes.
Like, well, that was one of the universities that reached out to us today. They're like, okay, we use isometrics all the time.
Mm.
However, we go from basketball, men's basketball, which is average height, let's go with 6'8",
Yeah.
to women's soccer,
Yeah.
which is 5'2".
Yeah.
We need a product that's compatible for both.
Yeah.
And that, for the most part, outside of ISOFIT, does not exist.
Right.
So we fill in those gaps because, you can put like our tallest guy that I know that has used ISOFIT is 7'7".
Oh, wow.
Right. And he's a basketball guy. He does really well in the NBA.
Yeah.
And the shortest person, we have, how do you call it these days? Dwarf, short person,
Mm.
mini person, whatever
Yeah.
you call it.
Yeah.
One of the strongest mini people in the world,
Oh, okay.
has an ISOFIT. And it's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you literally go from 4'9", let's go with,
Yeah.
to 7'7", on one product. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool, and they both can do millions of exercises.
How many iterations have you gone through? What was the process of going from concept to actual product?
Man, basically, so inception story, I'll give you that first because
Yeah.
I had two clients walk in one day and say, "Hey, Brad, there's no wall space at my gym."
Mm.
And it's like, oh, what do you mean you have no wall space? You have a 70,000 square foot gym I know you would go to. And the other guy was like at his local gym. But most gyms, they have mirrors on the wall. They have equipment shoved up against it. So it's like, oh, okay. So later that afternoon, I was like literally sitting in the bottom of my bathtub. And I had that sort of epiphany moment. And, so I'm at home. I have a home office. So I jump up totally naked. Run to my office, grab a piece of cardboard, pair of scissors, some glue, and a paper clip, and I constructed my own little ISOFIT.
Yeah.
Just standing there kind of naked. So if you think of truly a birthing story, I literally was naked and wet when I came out of the bathroom to create this damn thing. So that symbolism's not lost on me. Is it appropriate to tell people? It is what it is.
Hey, good
You
stuff.
know, so then I basically came up with that design. Then I had one of my young ladies that was one of my customers. She was a graphic design student, so I had her put that model into a 2D drawing.
Yeah.
I then showed that 2D drawing to one of my other customers, who is one of Canada's basically a leading senior partner in Canada's leading largest law firms at the time. So it was like, okay, so I was able to take everyone around me to construct this stuff. Then I designed a product that was supposed to be like a 6-foot long isometric foldable unit that was designed for group exercise, but it was made out of plastic. And that was our first kind of concept once I got it all designed. And that was going to cost me about $100,000 in tool and die and stuff like that to get it sort of set up before I even sold one. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like emotionally, I can't do that. My daughter is just recently born and stuff like that as well. So we're in a financial sort of pickle, even though I did get a check for $100,000, which was wonderful, but that goes wicked fast during the patent and design, just to let you know. So basically came up with the concept. Then in 2013, so that's 2009 to 2013. So 4 years, I kind of just sat on this. And then I was like, oh, well, why don't I just make it from steel? And then, I think it was 8 weeks later, I actually had my first ISOFIT. So 4 years with a mental block. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? Just change material, and then you're good. So we had 3 iterations before we commercialized it.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it went from a 30-inch elevated table with casters on the wheels
Yeah.
to going, well, it's no good because you can't really stand up on a 30-inch table.
Right.
And by having casters on it, when they actually start to shake with isometrics, it was
Yeah.
like basically it turned into a power plate.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, they're a great company as
Yeah.
well, but it's like, that's not what I want. And then from there, basically dropped it right down to 6 inches off the ground. Then we had people sort of say, well, it's too low for me. It's like,
Right.
okay, cool. So we then elevated it up to 12 inches,
Mhm.
and we had a single arc. And then it's like, well, I need to basically change that point of application on like individuals, like longer limbs and stuff like that. So we added a secondary arc, and then that was basically it for the first one. Then the second unit, I don't know, I drew it on a paper napkin and sort of said, hey, cool. So that was once for the second unit.
Perfect.
The strength straps, that took about 5 minutes. The tower, I don't know, did it in 20 minutes.
Yep.
So now that we have such an extraordinary design team, basically I walk in with an idea and say, I kind of want this. And they look at me like, you're an idiot. Why are you doing this? This is, but on the flip side, it's like kind of like it's based off conversations I have,
Yes. You
right?
solve
So
the
it's like
problem.
I'm not like any of the stuff I do is because somebody or usually more than one person is asked.
Of
And it
course.
might, to be honest, it might be two.
Yeah.
But if it's two, how many other people are we not talking to?
Yeah.
In this year, and I think this is a big year for us. We started teaming up with a couple different universities about doing like legitimate scientific research on, or sorry, using ISOFIT instead of just hanging our hat off the word isometric,
Right.
which we've done for, call it since 2013, so 14 years. So our first ever like prototype, the one that we sort of made out of steel, went directly to the University of Toronto.
Hmm.
And so that was to prove that it did isometrics. So
Okay.
we had that, and they're like, yeah, it kind of does it because pushing to something that doesn't move. So it was part of a young woman's master's thesis, and
Okay.
it was formerly Motion Block was the name of the company.
Okay.
So we changed the name of that,
So it's,
and
so it's legit then. It's legit isometric because
legit,
it didn't move.
it
Got
didn't move.
it. Okay.
Yeah, right. Like shockingly, pushing into something that doesn't move does isometrics.
Does it?
Uh,
Okay. Weird.
yeah, so
How much money? How much research money did we spend on that research
for
paper?
that one, that was fun. That one was free. That was beautiful.
Okay. Good.
So, and I'm like, well, now I can like, so I'm just gonna hang my hat off that word for the
Sure.
rest of my life because
Fine.
doing an isometric against the wall or a table or a tree or a car tire, it's
Yep.
kind of the same damn thing. Which is the irony. Because, and I'll even get people to sort of say, why would I buy this? I can do isometrics anywhere. I'm like, please
Right.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Go nuts. Absolutely do
The question
isometrics.
is, will you do it? Because
Correct. And the
it's
answer
not a
is no, they
machine.
won't.
No, you
Because they
won't
don't
do
have it.
it. But
They
if you
don't
have
have
a
a toy.
machine, yeah. If you have a $3,000 machine, I bet you'll do it.
100%.
Yeah.
And they do. And shockingly, the results is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so we basically sort of, U of T sort of did that, but we got some stuff going on with University of South Carolina, who are a good customer on the sports side. So we got to know some of their researchers and stuff like that. So we're looking at sort of cervical spine isometrics, and we did a quick little N1 study. So take it with a grain of salt. But we walked in, we showed them the ISOFIT strength kit, and they were looking at sort of the iron neck, right? So that halo thing,
Halo.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, great product for what it
Yep.
is and stuff like that. It's a brilliant price point. And so they sort of said, well, let's compare it to the iron neck. So, and they were just looking at neural activation of the SCM,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, and it's an N1 study, so we still have to go back and sort of look at the sort of stuff. But our version of an isometric chin tuck in a supine position and theirs, we outperformed them by 2,000%, which is not an insignificant sum when you're
No.
looking at it going, oh, 2,000% is, 21 times or 20 times. So we're basically sort of said, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now let's blow that up and maybe go like N35, N50. So, get 50 people, because then what we're able to do is use that sort of information and leverage it against F1,
Yeah.
the Air Force,
Yes.
soccer, football, all of these other things where it's like, okay, well, most people don't do any neck training. And that was the brilliant part about Iron Neck. They were the first ones to come and say, hey, everyone, you need to be focused on this.
Yeah. If this is a weak link, this is going to cause a problem all the way down the kinetic chain.
Everywhere. Where's your central nervous system?
Right. It's right here, and all the information's got to go through that. And if
Yeah.
that doesn't feel safe, everything gets disorganized.
It's screwed up. And, you look at like things like throwing or swimming or running. What is your shoulder attached to? It attaches to your cervical spine or your thoracic spine, right? And, one thing. Yeah, and they just don't get it, and so they don't train it. They're fearful of it, and you've been in the exercise industry for a while, and it's like most people say, "Oh, I can't do stuff because I'm worried about hurting my neck,"
Because your
but
neck
you
is
don't do anything to strengthen your neck, so
yeah.
it's the catch 22. So we're doing some stuff there. So looking at sort of neural activation. Obviously, we'll look at sort of force generation and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're looking to team up with Appalachian State about basic intra-brain communication stuff, where you're looking basically putting an EEG on top to see how fast we can actually influence intra-brain communication.
Oh,
So
wow.
what I'm positioning and hoping that they get approved is on Sunday we do a test, then we do 5 days of our 30 and 30 protocol, and then we do basically the follow-up intervention test on the Saturday. So basically, can we influence intrabrain communication and reforming new neural networks within 2.5 hours of exercise? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I want to be proven right or wrong.
Or wrong.
And I'm okay to be proven wrong because
Yeah.
there's so many other benefits to isometrics where it's like, okay, maybe it was 5 hours,
Right.
maybe it was 10 hours,
Yeah.
but what they're seeing in University of Southern California, so in their gerontology department, what they were looking at is a 16-second isometric.
Okay.
So squeezing a tennis ball with either hand at an arbitrary force output was enough. So four contractions at 16 seconds with a 30-second rest in between was enough to increase memory recall in both young and old people.
Huh.
And I'm like, well, okay, cool. So if you can do that in 16 seconds, what can I do in 2.5 hours?
Right.
I think I'm gonna blow this up in the sense that I think we can get rid of a lot of these cognitive issues with aging by just focusing on isometric contractions.
Tension.
Right. Now, the benefit of an isometric over dynamic, like let's say cardio stuff where you have impact, right? If you think about low grade brain sloshing in, like, go to the extreme as a concussion.
Yeah.
So bring it back to jogging or skipping.
Yeah.
What is the negative influence of those on long-term brain health?
Right.
Is there first? Let's ask that question, and then extrapolate that out and go, well, we know what the extreme is, so is it part of the spectrum towards that extreme?
Right.
And if we can get rid of the impact side that your brain doesn't even have to deal with because you're not slamming it around, I think we can probably improve upon any of the benefits that you had dynamically, right, without the risk. That's still to be proven. But as I said, I'm okay to be right. I'm okay to be wrong.
That's awesome.
You
got so much going on. Now you also have you're developing a certification, correct?
Correct. So one of the beautiful things about ISOFIT is we have a lot of customers. One of the negative sides about ISOFIT is we don't have a community, and our messaging has been so segmentally broken. So I've had a lot of conversations over the last year with individuals with our product, and it's like, wow, you don't know how to explain it. You don't know how to use it. You don't know how to optimize it. You bought it. Thank you. Thank you. However, let's sort of put this under an umbrella and sort of say, okay, can we create basically a 2-day program? We called it the ISOFIT Strength Coach Certification. And it's 16 hours of, this is what we're going to talk about isometrics. We're going to show you the history of it. We're going to show you how to actually talk about it, how to position it, how to sell it. So that's our sort of level 1. And once you get ISOFIT Strength Coach certified, then you're going to have 4 different educational streams to go down. So you basically have a performance stream, right? Like for your S&C coaches and the guys in the sports space. A tactical stream, so that's like our individuals who are with the U.S. Air Force and U.S. Army and stuff like that. So it's like that side, the 911 community, so the tactical divisions. So how can we help those people and the individuals that work with those? We're also going to have the fitness stream, because the fitness community needs to actually promote isometrics. I mean, we're frontline healthcare workers, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah. So we have that ability to prevent sort of all these ailments and increase longevity. So let's get that community armed with the right information so they can actually disseminate that to the customer, right? That's not happening right now. And then at the end, it's the healthcare and rehab community. Rehab. Yeah. Right. Because those are the ones that, unfortunately are dealing with individuals usually that are injured. Yep. And they'll start with isometrics.
Yep.
but then they drop the ball and say, hey, go back to the things that usually led you to be injured in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
without the tools necessary to actually basically overcome those obstacles or those issues.
Yeah.
So we have all of those. So our first course is in Toronto. It's May, like basically May 23rd, May 24th. Then we are in Dallas, and then we're in Arizona. So basically trying to go to different areas around North America to make it a little bit more accessible to people. And then, we'll roll stuff out well, actually, talking to guys over in Lisbon. We got a guy in San Diego who wants to host a course as well. So it's like, become very, very satellite educationally oriented.
Yeah.
But there's so much opportunity in the world of isometrics. And it's, from a scalability perspective, that you can run studios similar to like spin studios or Pilates studios built on isometrics. And it's, that's all coming. It's all in the framework, and it's all in the vision, and the vision board is kind of like, it looks like Disney's map where everything is all interconnected.
Yeah.
But it comes back to, if you can't explain what isometrics are,
Yeah.
none of it matters.
No.
And
Benefits that it proposes, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah. If you
like,
can't make it relevant to the individual and why they're important, then we're sitting there talking about stuff that almost, nobody cares about. But if we can explain it and we can show them, hey, here's why we do this, here's why it's important, and here's how to do it with very low entry points to make it as easy as possible. The nice thing with isometrics, like you said, you just meet them where they're at. Oh, you can't do 10 minutes? Fine. We'll do 1 minute.
yeah.
And then
And
start from there.
right. And the beautiful thing is, like, so obviously isometrics, there's several different versions, and I don't want to get into that sort of right now, but if I'm pushing into an immovable object,
Yep.
that immovable object's going to match my output in real time.
Yep.
Right. So, and that's just Newton's third law of motion. So we coined the term force matching technology. Right, which is obviously a play off that. And it's like, so if I'm pushing into that, so it's going to, if I go from zero effort to maximum effort, let's say it's 100 pounds.
Yep.
So it's going to hit every pound all the way up from 0 to 100. It's not going to skip any of it.
No.
Now, as I start to get tired, I can't generate 100 anymore, but it's going to go from 100 to 99 to 98 to 97 to 96.
Yeah.
So what you're able to do is actually start training fatigue state safely.
Yes.
Right.
Again.
Right. And that's where it benefits athletes or just general population the most. We get hurt when we're tired or fatigued.
Yep.
And what'll end up happening is everyone in the sports performance community will look at and say, peak force is the maximal effort put out.
Yep.
And that is true, but it's not 100% effort. 100% effort is when you can't do it anymore.
Yes.
Right. So we're able to train that rate of isometric force fatigue.
Yes.
Right. Which is the decline. And if we can reduce that rate of decline or decay within that force, the athlete's going to be better. They're going to have sustainability. The durability of that athlete goes up. And you can sort of say that's the office worker. You can say it's the tactical athlete as well. So if we can increase that durability of the said individual, injury rates go down.
Yeah.
If injury rates go down, post-career quality of life just improved. So it has this cascading effect of just by sort of switching how we train people. And I'm not going to, we've discussed this earlier, isometrics is not easy. No. It's as challenging as you want it to be, right? So if you're pushing at maximal effort and fatiguing at maximal effort till you can't do it anymore and you rest 15 seconds and do it again, that's brutal.
Yeah.
And subsequently that'll actually transfer over to every sport that you're wanting to be good at. And we see it. So I'm comfortable to say every sport now. Even water polo, which is arguably there's not much isometric in there. You sink if you aren't moving concentrically or eccentric. Well, more concentrically, actually. Concentric this way, you have the isometric change. Concentric that way, concentric. But yeah, even still, the actual the transition phase once again is always isometric. But yeah, like we're very blessed and very fortunate. So helping a ton of people.
Yeah, the work that you're putting out, the product you're putting out, it's awesome. It's awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Where can people find you?
Easiest place is Instagram. So my personal handle is at ISOFIT, ISOPHIT_inventor. The corporate one is at ISOFIT. And then I put out an article on Substack every day. And, it's designed to challenge people's thoughts. It may offend some, but that's their problem, not mine. It makes me happy to put it out, because it keeps my brain, in the scientific literature and reading and all of that sort of stuff. But the handle on Substack is just at ISOFIT.
Okay.
And like today's article as an example was basically is eccentric training one of these hidden causes of all the increase in injuries in season and sport.
Right.
And you think about that and go, oh my God, we have to do eccentric training. It's the popular stuff right now. And it's like, okay, well, what they're seeing in like one session, you're able to basically, it takes 7 days for the tissue to recover on a muscular perspective. Right. And if that's on the slow eccentric. And if you're looking at fast eccentrics, like high velocity eccentrics, it traumatizes the nerve structure. And it's like eccentric training has become super popular amongst athletes, both from a warm-up perspective as well as in season.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, if I'm causing muscle damage and nerve damage, probably not the best way to set up my athlete.
Yeah.
For positive performance gains. Yeah. And is that to say eccentrics is wrong? No, it just means view it with caution.
Yes.
And spend some time going, oh, I'm not only working this tissue when I'm doing this exercise. So what is the impact of a small muscle or that big exercise on that small muscle you don't know the name of?
Yeah.
That then fails, that dumps more load into the big muscle because you lost all your supportive structures.
Yeah. So. Prescribe with intention, prescribe intelligently, and accordingly to the athlete and the context around them. Well, that's awesome. I mean, we could talk about this for easily another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. And Brad, thank you for coming on Staying Relevant. I appreciate the work you're doing. I'm excited to see what you're doing. And I'm excited to get some of your products too. So this would be great.
I'm excited for you to get them too. Yeah, awesome, man. Tom, I appreciate everything, man. And thanks for having me on.
Thanks. All right, thanks, Take care.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Staying Relevant. If you enjoyed it, check out the AMT certification at amtcertified.ca, where we help clinicians and coaches get better results faster. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes and share this with a coach, clinician, or athlete who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep staying relevant.